Hello and good day. I enjoyed reading your discussions on week 8 regarding Schilling and Schwartz. I know we discussed it in class, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to think about what we talked about and use it for yourself. All right? It's a good teaching strategy, right? You demonstrate and then you need to ask your students to perform something. Just knowing it doesn't always mean that you can do it or perform it. And in your case, I really want you to be consumers of research, but I want you to be able to speak to it if you're sharing information or strategies to other people. So I wanted to point out some really cool things that people were saying. I liked that Ashley used a quote from the Behavior Beast. And he said, as long as the intervention is related to the behavior change, then we come to the conclusion that these things work. But and that's true, but how do we know and how do we give credit to the intervention? If we see 3 replications of effect, then that's going to rule out a lot of threats to internal validity. I really liked Lauren's terminology use. She said some things like experimental control or functional relations occur when a second baseline phase is added and then a second intervention phase. So in a way, that's describing the 3 replications of effect. So she also added that in order to have a functional relation, you would also need 3 stable data points for mostly for baseline conditions. So the main threats to internal validity that are addressed through the design, the ABAB design, those are the maturation and historical confounding threats. I think that Virgil did a good job in his discussion talking about the visual analysis. So really some specific examples of the data and the level and the trend changes across conditions, showing those 3 replications of effect is certainly a way to show functional relation. Sarah raised some interesting points about the intense participant and setting description, and I agree. I think that is something that's very important in single case design, primarily, and it definitely helps with the external validity, because having those detailed descriptions of the participant and setting, that is going to help us with replicating a study, which extends our external validity. So thank you for mentioning that. And ultimately, I just want to say there that the 3 replications of effect, immediate changes in level and trend, and stability in baseline data, this allows us to rule out those threats to internal validity due to maturation and historical confounding variables. So way to go, guys. I just really want to encourage you to keep using that terminology, the visual analysis, talking about level and trend and stability, the functional relation, and replications of effect. So one more last note, that it is those of you who mentioned the inter-observer agreement and keeping everything consistent across conditions, including prompting students to sit. Those are very important to considering reliability and other threats to internal validity. So there are definitely things that we have to think about outside of the design. So good job. You guys are really coming along. I'm impressed with how you all were describing that study. More of that to come. Take care.